Hey everybody, welcome back to the Desynced Let's Play. I have been doing a little bit of just arbitrary fixer-uppering of the base in the past few minutes. Just kind of getting the thing looking a little nicer so we know kind of where our base is. So we have a bit of foundation that we were making. Let's see here. We have this fabricator here, which has been creating a whole bunch of foundation for us. So we're just spending all of that foundation and building it. And one of the other things is I'm just going to turn this off for a moment too, and we should still see our runners picking stuff up from it. Not. No, it doesn't look like they'll want to. It's powered down. We'll power it back on. So we're doing that, and I'm going to move this out here. I don't want it building any foundation right now. I just want to try to draw that down because one of the other things that I want to do is... looks like we're done. Okay. One of the things I want to do is deconstruct it because I don't want it here. I want to build this over here. And I also want to... let's see here. Yeah, so we'll just get that done. And then we're going to jump in to what this episode is about, which is... let's see here. That there. What we're going to do is we're going to focus this episode on research and power management, which ought to be very fun. Okay, so now we have that moved over. Let's just clean this up. We'll move that over here. And we'll just move this into one of these. Drop this over here. There we go. Okay. So, one of the other things that I would like to do is get, one of the things, the main thing we're going to try to do is get research moving on, right? So we're going to go to the home base. And for now, this is where I am going to set up our research station. So what I'm going to do is go over here, go to my uplink, and I'm requesting this, right? The idea being that we already have it somewhere in our network, and we want it in this building. So we're going to use that button, and it's going to deliver it over here. And look at that. When it does so, we're going to get that up on our tower here. The next thing that I want to do is make it so that if there are any ingredients that this is missing, the same way that we did earlier with our robotic factory, that they are produced inside of this assembler. That way, you know, if we're producing it, we'll be able to research things pretty quickly, and if we're not, we'll research it slowly and it'll get done eventually. So let's go into our research menu. There's a handful of different things that we can research. However, you'll notice that most of them we don't have access to, right? Virus research, human intel, alien technology, blight research. We don't have access to these right now. What we need to do is we need to discover things in the map, and they will allow us to unlock these channels. And eventually, once we beat the game, there's a mode that's unlocked that allows you to start with something other than robotics, which is pretty cool. But in the first game that you play, you got to start with robotics. So what we're going to do is going to go into basic robots here. And the structure of this is that there are dependencies between these different things that go straight down. There are also resource dependencies. So if we look at basic structures, we're going to see that this gives us reinforced plate. That's going to allow us to unlock behaviors, power transduction, and basic robotics. We look at basic robotics. It has silicon and energized plate, and that's going to allow us to do robotics production and nanobots and expanded power. Robotics production has wire, and wire is going to allow us to unlock gateway technology. That being said, gateway technology also requires these robotics data cubes, and that's going to require that we explore the map a bit. Each one of these blocks has technology that works the same way. We can't see it here, but each one of these has varying technologies that you research down So it's a very self-similar kind of situation. So what we're going to do at the beginning is we are going to start with our basic structures. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to grab power. And then we're going to go over here and we're going to grab signals. And once we've gotten all of those done, the last thing we want to do is power transduction. But you can only schedule 3 at a time. So, whoop-de-doo, we'll have to wait a little while. Actually, I want to change that slightly. Power research first. There's a good reason for this. One of the things that we're running into problems with, or that we will very soon, is that we need a lot more power because we want to scale all of our production lines up. And we can't do that right now. Because we, as you can see, we occasionally jump up in power over what we need. What the basic power is going to let us do is burn these crystals as a way of being able to supply power onto our power network. So while that's going, let's just continue refining the base a little bit. I want to have some of these metal plates always available, so let's do that. And figure the store registers, just like that. And this is going to be coming up real quick, which is nice. When we get these basic power crystals, I'm just going to drop one of these fabs right here as a way of being able to start unlocking additional power. Let's see here. I think I want a few more runners. We're starting to get a little locked up with runners. All right, so we got our basic research here. We're gonna build, grab our blueprint that we put together last time. The power crystals, or the crystal power, uses assemblers, so we're going to build our assembler thing. Just put that. I'll just put that right here. We don't really want a ton of this. We just want a little bit. So I'm just going to make this building. And then I'm going to go and I'm just going to grab these. Just grab a small building. We'll drop down 2 of these right next to each other. It'll be nice and quick. Now, one of the things that's interesting about the battery here, that someone on the Discord server pointed out to me, is that you can hold down control when you build these buildings, and that brings up the design screen right here. So if you've managed to miss holding or clicking the right thing inside the menu, really easy thing you can do here. So anyway, we're going to do this. We're going to start construction on it, and I want 2 of those. Each one of these batteries produces 150 resources, power, on a continuous basis, right? That drain rate is 150. And the way that it does that is it basically consumes one of these scattered crystals here, or not scattered crystals, but it consumes some of the crystals here. And when it does that, it fills up an internal battery to 6,000. And then it will drain that battery down over time at a drain rate of 150. So, it should not take too long for us to get this done. Just need to have our assembler come up, and then we should be good to go. You can also see that we're starting to get into places where our runners are starting to block up. We might want to solve that as well. So while that's being built, you can also see here, we're actually running out of the plate. So since we have the power coming up, let's take some time, just scale up our resource production here. Just a touch. And let's see, I probably am going to want more than that. So maybe... I'll just put 1 more of this down. That ought to be fine. And then We'll also probably need more plates as well, so I'll drop down another one of those. Each one of these takes, let's see here, takes 2 of those bars, and it takes 2 seconds. And it takes 2 bars, and it takes 6 seconds for every bar. This one produces a bar every 4 seconds. So in order for the math to work out on these, essentially what we'll need is for every 2 of these, we want 3 of these. So we'll just do 1 more. And essentially that is going to take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of this row will end up being just feeding our metal plates. This row will end up feeding our storage block. And we're going to do a little trick in a little while. Once we've unlocked this basic structures thing, we'll actually hopefully be able to scale this up in place. We'll just make it big, big, big. But for now, we'll be space inefficient. It won't be that big of a deal. Okay, so we got that going. We have our basic structures being built, which ought to be good. And let's see here. What are we going to need, actually, for basic power? Oh, we can add our power transduction now, so let's do that. For basic power, we're going to need 30 crystals. So let's actually just request those 30 crystals now. That. Let's see here. And then for the power transduction, we're going to need 20 more crystals. So we'll wait for this to finish, and then we'll just add 20 more on top. And that way, we're going to get that real nice and quick with any luck. It'll just research it in about 30 seconds flat. And let's see here. Is there anything else that I want to do while we're waiting? Ah, there we go. We got our research complete. With that, there we go. All right, so now we're going to get 20 more crystals. 20 more crystals there. What else did we need? 20 crystals. We're going to need 10 advanced plate. I think that's just going to have to be built for now. We can get 2 more circuit boards. That'll help unblock that as well. Let's keep it going. All right. So now we have unlocked our. Let's see here. We unlocked the reinforced plate, and we're going to want to actually build reinforced plate as well. Each one takes 8 seconds, and it requires 2 metal and 1 plate. I don't really feel like doing the math right now. Well, what we do know, actually, is this plate is supplied faster than this building can consume it. Let's see here. This is going to build. It needs 1 every 8 seconds, and where was it? The metal plate is produced every 6 seconds. So let's do this actually. In order to build our basic resource, let's use this 2x1 building that we just unlocked as a way of creating this plate. And let's see. I'm starting to run out of room. What can I do? Oh, these are also going to require a fair amount of metal production. This is going to get really intense really quickly. All right, so let's put this here. And that seems kind of reasonable. Actually, no. Let's put it over here. I have a good reason for this. So we are going to end up using a lot of metal bars, right? But we actually don't need to rely on these fabricators. And the reason why is because inside of this building, what we can do is we can say, we want an assembler and we want a fabricator. And I don't want that. I want this. I guess. That's fine. this fabricator is going to be producing this fabricator is going to be producing what this assembler needs. And let's see. What I want this to build is these reinforced plates. So it's always going to basically be producing those metal bars. You know what we could do? This might be a bit silly. Let's make sure actually that it always has this is 20 in a stack. So we'll say that this always should have 20 metal bars. And the last thing that we will do is actually, I think that's probably all right. Let's see if this works on its own. See how it's going to. Ain't it a good thing that we have these crystals over here, making sure our power supply doesn't get too bent out of shape. Awesome. Now the question is this going to constantly produce these metal plates, or is it only going to do it when it says that it needs them? That's the question. Looks like it might always have it. That'll be nice. Awesome. Okay, and then we're going to get a storage block. Now, this takes a lot of resources to make, and I don't know how many of them we're actually going to need. So, you know, because it's a kind of basic resource, I'm just going to continue building out the way we have been. We'll just do a storage. We want this to be our reinforced plate. Okay. And we'll put that. I don't know if I want it right next to it or not. We're kind of running out of space here. Let's put it over here. This will be fine. And we'll just say always store your excess over there. And so this should be, at this point, just producing that plate. And for power transduction, we're almost there. Almost there. Awesome. Is there anything else that we could produce in the time? We have these signal readers. And, okay, so the portable radar and the signpost are neat, but I'm not going to use them right now. The reason I wanted basic signals was for this signal reader. So let's create a fabricator that creates a bunch of signal readers. And let's see. That here, I guess. And is there anything else that we can do right now? Doesn't seem like. How's this working? Oh, it looks like that they're delivering the resource instead of this actually producing it. It's not what I want. This to always be producing it. Let's do this. Let's lock the slots. Lock this slot. And instead, I'm just going to have this always produce these metal plates. That way, the moment this has one empty, it'll just keep going. Lock that slot too. There we go. That'll keep it going. And now it should be entirely self-sufficient, and we should have these just building up resources. Which, are they all? Yeah, they're all connected in. That should be fine. What we're going to do is, for our power network, we're going to want to use solar cells, right? The idea here is research, not research, we want to do renewable power, so we're not using our crystals, we're not burning them. Instead, we want to gather power from the sun, right? And for that, we're going to need solar cells, and because the sun, you know, it's not always around, we're also going to need batteries, so let's create some batteries. And last but not least, we're going to want power fields. Power fields are going to allow us to expand our logistics network, all of these Wi-Fi signals, and it's also going to allow us to have to deliver power to each one of our units, allowing our units to go further, especially things like these runners here. So these guys are going to be producing some of these, and I also want to have some storage for each one of these. So put together, I want to have storage for, let's see here, I want that. I also want storage for, what is this? I want the power block for the battery. Oh, stop. The battery. Would help if I selected the correct blueprint. Battery. Okay. And what's not, I want, what's the last one here? The small power. Okay. Okay, so we'll do the storage trick for each one of these so that they know where to deliver their stuff to. And last but not least, we'll also sing signal. Just as many as we can. We'll just keep building out. All right. Now, what we're going to need to do is extend our power network. So the first thing is, you know, we have a bunch of space, right? And that's good because solar power is going to take up a bunch of space. And what we're going to want to do is build out power network into this space. Let's do this. We'll start here and create that. Call this a pylon. Because I'm a person who used to play StarCraft back in the day. And we're just going to have one for now, and then we'll copy and paste it around. But we'll probably end up making a blueprint for it at some point. There's this explorable over here. So we're not going to be doing too much exploration in this one, but I do think it's a good idea to do some. So let's have our scout go over here. Our scout, remember, it can exist outside of our power network. So we can go ahead and do that. A lot of times, especially in the base game, you're going to have, these things are going to have mini games in front of them. For the purposes of this Let's Play, I've just turned that off in the settings. And the main reason for that is to make it so that you guys don't see me solving puzzles for 20 minutes. I'm very bad at the puzzles. So we're going to just move those over. And then I think I saw one over here as well. So we're going to have this scout go over here. And eventually, hopefully it'll build. There it goes. Okay. Got some wire. Some metal bars. So wire here. Our little runner went all the way over there and it wore itself out. Okay, so now we have a pylon. Let's keep going out just a little bit more with the pylon. And we're going to also put a pylon up here. Then through the process of triangulation, looks like we can put one here. And that'll give us some nice space. Right up here is probably where we're going to put our power network we want to build now. Okay, so the next thing that I want to get into here is, let's just get some more research going on. We have enough for basic robotics, so let's get that going, and we'll unlock behaviors just because we can. We are definitely not going to get to behaviors. However, it also gives us shared storage, which is actually a really cool thing. It's going to give us a bit better, a way to better manage all of our equipment than by manually configuring these storage registers, which is going to be a nice boon. All right, so we have a whole bunch of this stuff. And what we're going to do is build out our power network. So we're going to start with one of these small buildings here. And I'm going to build this in a row of 2. And I'm just going to put it over here. Let's see here. That seems like a good place to start. So I'm going to build 2 of these platforms, right? And what we're going to do is construct just one version of this, and then we're going to turn that into a blueprint that we can copy and paste. And the coolest part is the blueprint's going to involve both buildings. So inside of here, this is probably just going to get built straight up. Looks like our production line is still pretty slow. I don't really know what to do about that right now. Let's watch what's going on and just see what happens. First of all, I thought I had these guys configured to mine outside. I want to get these cleaned up, and so I configured it so that they would go over to it, and it didn't seem that they don't seem to want to go over there. They're instead just mining on their lonesome. It's not how we want this to work. Like, the overall idea is that, like, these 3 pieces here are just, they're just clutter. I don't really want the clutter. But I don't want to waste the material either. So, you know, I think the other part is we're probably just in dire need of more mining in general. I can't move the camera while I'm in here. Let's do this. We'll move that. Because I need to be able to see this storage block in order for these guys to work on it. So let's go here, get this. We want to mine metal ore. We want to store in that storage block. Okay. 3 more. 3 more sounds good. All right, so we have our platforms built now. Hopefully we'll unblock some of these, because I think what's going on is that these are waiting on resources. Like, we've scaled it up, but they don't have enough, so it's just all blocked. So hopefully that'll help. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is put together solar arrays, right? So we're going to start here with our solar cells, and we want 2 of those in this one. And, you know, let's make it so that this one has 1 solar cell, and it also has 1, where's the other thing? Battery, 1 battery. So each one of these solar cells is going to produce 150 at a time, and is going to produce 50 at a time. This 75 happens because this platform has a multiplier on it, but we can't always be guaranteed that we're going to have that. This small battery is going to only produce 150 at most, and it can charge at 150. So by putting 1 of these with 3 of these, we end up having it so that this will always, as a unit, will always produce 150 power. We're going to have excess power to fill the battery, but each one of these as a unit should always work, right? Now, the other part is we want to know at what point in time during the day it's producing power. And we can, using our visual register, output the amount of power it has, which is cool. But we have a problem, because if we do this, suddenly this number's wrong. This is producing 150 power, 150 power. This isn't producing 75 power. But what happens is it takes whatever is inside, whatever you connected first, as the thing it's to display. And then the thing that's you connected second just is sitting there waiting to be able to display. And so it'll just sit here. So what we want to do is we want to add it together. We want to know, well, how much total power is being produced by this unit. And there's another thing. This, I don't know if it's a bug or if it's the design of the game, but the batteries, they don't actually tell us how much power, right? I can't connect the power gauge, the storage gauge over here. I can't see it, right? And not only that, but they also don't have a power production output. So, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to read this out. But what we can do is at the very least be able to create a behavior that connects these things together, right? And in order to do that, the first thing that I want to do is I want to get the information that's coming from this solar cell over here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use signals. I'm going to grab this signal reader, and that's going to end up being delivered hopefully quickly. Wow, those guys are really loud now. Super loud. Okay. So we have a signal reader, and it has a target entity. The target entity that we're going to set is this, right? And then over here, we're going to have this power production go over here to signal. So what ends up happening is the data here moves over here, and then this is reading the signal from this one, right? That's what we set that one to this building, and this signal is coming in over here. So now we not only can see what the output is for ours, but we can also see what it is for this one over here. This is going to be really cool. Now, we're going to jump in to integrated behaviors. This behavior, I think every one of the robot units comes with an integrated behavior controller. And what that means is they're all programmable. Makes a ton of sense. They're robots, right? Without that, we would end up needing to use a behavior controller, which you can see on this tech over here. Let's see if I can just bring up the technology real quick. This here is a behavior controller. It does the same thing as the integrated ones. So this integrated behavior controller and that other one, exactly the same. The reason why it's separate is, one, for the units that don't have a behavior controller, and the other reason is because I can run multiple behaviors on a unit if I have more than one behavior controller. That's a pretty advanced use case. We're not going to get to it for a little while, but it is pretty cool if you have more advanced builds to be able to see what's going on. Let's see here. These guys are getting a little annoying. Let's make it so that they are... Well, I don't know if there's anything I'll be able to do about that right now. I'll just turn around the view so that they're not right where the camera is, and I won't be able to hear them as much. All right, so we're going to go in and we're going to create an integrated behavior, right? And the goal of our integrated behavior, whenever you're creating a behavior, you want to start by thinking about what you're trying to accomplish, right? What I'm trying to accomplish is I have 3 different power values that are each stored in a different register, and those registers are on a component, okay? And I want to read the value out of each one of these, and then I want to output that inside of my visual register, right? That's essentially what I want to do. And critically, I want to add them together because I can connect this together, right? And it would be like, oh, look at that. But unfortunately, I can't actually do that because, again, I get this raw 75. Now, one of the things that I could do is I could create a behavior that's going to add all of this stuff together. It's going to do all of the extra work, and it will read these registers. But we're going to end up with an incredibly complicated behavior if we do that. It will take, I don't know, probably half an hour or so for me to debug it and stuff. So I don't really want to do that on stream. But what I will do is instead use a different feature. So if we go here, we're going to call this summarize power. And what I can do instead is I can use these parameters. A parameter allows me to make my own register on the behavior controller. So let's call this power 1. Instead of using Roman numerals, we'll use regular numerals. Power 1. We're going to call this one power 2. And we're going to call this one power 3. And now, if I go out, power 1, power 2, power 3. So now, I can drag these, just like this. And boom, now all of my registers are connected. And I can see what's going where. Right? So that's our first piece. When we have that information going in, we're going to also want that information going out. So I'm going to go back in my behavior, and I'm going to say this one is going to be called total. Total power. And I'm going to take the total power, and I'm going to drag that over here. And so now I can see how all of the stuff is going in and how all of the stuff is going out. Now, again, inside of the behavior controller, you can set these base registers. You don't need to do it this way. What I would say is that if you're new to how to create behaviors, start here. Start with just figuring out what your inputs are and what your outputs are. Use the interface that you have here to help you understand how the data flows. And the reason why is because inside of this, it gets a little more difficult to understand how all the parts fit together. We're going to use a little bit of that now. We're going to create an internal register. It's also called a variable. And we're going to store the data in that variable, but we're only going to do it for one piece of data. And as a result, we're going to have only one thing to manage in our minds. Once you get more familiar with it and you're used to working with variables, you can definitely do it in a much more concise way. This way I recommend just for learning behaviors. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to add things together, right? So we're going to do an add. This search is very useful for this kind of stuff. We're going to do an add. And we're going to take power 1. And just like how we did the registers before, outside of it, we're going to drag this over and put it here. Power 2, we're going to put here. So we're going to add 2, this kind of reads backwards, 2 power 1, we're going to add power 2. Okay? And then we're going to take this result, and we're going to use this, write result to variable. And we're going to call this, we're going to just call this total. Okay, this is our total power, this is our total. Then we're going to add another instruction, and we're going to do the same thing, but instead of using power 1 or power 2, we're going to use power 3, and then we're going to add that to our total. And then the result, we're going to put into this total power as our output. And when we do that, we should see that our total power, well, we have to turn it on. But what we should see, look at that, 225 in our total power, and that gets output to our register. Excellent. We're already doing pretty good. So at this moment, I just need to take a break. There's going to be a cut because I need to feed my cat. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is it. This is our building. We have our behavior. We have our output being done. We can turn this into a blueprint now. So we're going to select both of these. Go over to my library. I'm going to create an item. Create blueprint from current selection, and boom, you can see new multi-blueprint. We can change the icon. Let's do this. We'll get a solar cell here. Boom. Awesome. We're gonna call this a solar cell. And let's see, is there anything else that we need to do here? I don't think so. This is all connected together. We have our integrated behavior controller, and it's going to be moving here. And we have all of these moving here. This notice that there's a yellow box when I highlight over this. If I highlight over this, you can kind of barely see it, but it shows up and it highlights that bottom one. So we know that in our blueprint, these are connected the way we want. That's pretty cool, awesome. And if we go over here, we can see that the signal's being moved out. So yeah, that's a good solar cell. Now at this point, you're going to notice that like, well, these things here are kind of starting to get a bit much. So let's do this. We're going to do power, and then go back up to our folder, and we're going to put both of these. How do I drag it? There we go. We're going to put both of these into power. And then when I want to go build it, I can select power over here, grab my solar cell, and there we go. We're going to have, I built 7 of them. There's going to be 8 total. That's going to be a pretty large amount of power. I think it's like 1,200. And what that should mean is that we no longer need to rely on our batteries for any of this. We'll be able to scale up in a pretty big way. And that's going to be exciting. Okay, so while they're building that, I also want to just flesh out a few more of our blueprints here. Getting whole bunches of stuff. Let's see here. We're gonna want some of these shared storage things because I said earlier that I want to show those off. So let's do that. And what else do I want in here? It's probably a good idea to have behavior controllers, so we'll just build a bunch of those. And I think turrets. We're gonna probably want to start defending ourselves and attacking stuff as we explore. So let's build some turrets. And what else is there in here? Ooh, well, this item transporter is going to be pretty neat. Or is it the item transporter? No, those are integrated components. Oh, it doesn't look like we have it yet. Is this it? Capacitor. That sounds good. Can we actually make those? Those are unlocked, right? Yes, it looks like we can. Yeah, so we'll build a bunch of capacitors. Actually, let me make sure I have what I need to build that first. This capacitor. Oh yeah, we have all the parts. Okay, so let's do that too. Build a bunch of capacitors. We're just going to build all the things, basically. And let's see here. As those come up. Ooh, so actually, interestingly enough, it's nighttime now. And these aren't producing anything, but they still have a lightning bolt on them. That to me seems kind of a little suspect, right? That's not exactly what we want to do. So let's go back in here. We're going to take a break from... They're going to take a while to build that stuff. So let's go back in here, into our library, and into our summarized power script, right? Because I don't want just this to happen. Now what I want is I want to make it so that if the lightning bolt exists, let's go into it actually in here. Because if we first of all, this is running, and so you can see that this is what it's doing all the time, right? It's just moving back and forth between these. And the other part is inside here you can do to view current values, and you can actually see what the actual data is that's flowing through. And you can see that there's an icon that's flowing through it, and that's how it gets read, right? So the first thing that I want to do, I'm going to pause this because I don't want, that's getting a little busy. Or actually, instead, it's so that we're not watching a behavior right now. All right, so now we have it, and it's, I probably actually still have it stopped on that, started on that. Then like that. Okay. So we can improve this, right? The first thing is we probably don't want it to be updating as rapidly as it is. I'm a human being, and I'm not a robot, and so I don't need it to update instantly, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add await ticks, right? And the way that this works, by the way, each one of these lines connects the thing to the thing that happens next. That's what those lines do. The data flows through the registers, whether they are a variable or whether they are a parameter or whether they're a base register. Okay, so the data is always moving through the blocks. What happens is always moving through these lines. And the thing that's really neat about that is that I can do this. Let's say this is a 2-second delay. So there's 5 game ticks per second. So 10 is 2 seconds, right? If I do this, and then let's go back and take a look at one of these, and we'll save it. Right? Yeah. Now you can see it's waiting. And then it's going to go back to the beginning around this line, right? Now, the other thing is that this would happen automatically even without this. If I save this here, yes. It's going to do this anyway, because when it reaches the end, it's going to restart at the beginning, right? But if there is a thing that you want it to do that's different than that, like let's say you don't want to run this ad every single time. We always do want it that way, but let's just say for the sake of argument that we didn't. You can do this, and then it will loop from here. It'll go this one, then 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 this one, and this one will never run again in that situation. So anyway, that's how these lines end up working. They tell you how things move. Now, the loop is an interesting piece that you can do with the lines. The other thing that you can do is you can do what's called a branch. And essentially what ends up happening is you can think of it like a branch of a tree, right? You have the trunk of the tree, and that's what we have right now. If we want something to happen that's different, we want to switch from the trunk of the tree to something that's slightly different, right? We want to take a branch off the side of the tree. And what we're going to do is we're going to use, I think it's called compare. Yes, compare number. We're going to use a compare in order to change what it is that happens, right? If the value, the way that this works is, the way that this works is we need 2 numbers, okay? One of those numbers is going to be our total, right? And the other one is going to be the value we want to compare it to. So, first of all, this total power, this is not what we want anymore. We want to add this into total. So we get power 1 plus power 2, and the value gets stored here. Then we're going to take power 3 and total. And then we're going to store the answer into total again. So total updates, right? Here, let's say this is 1 and this is 2. This is 3. And then it's going to take, let's say that power 3 is 4. It's going to add 4 and 3, and it's going to create 7. So here, we would end up having our value of 7. Now, our goal, remember we always want to start with a goal. Our goal is I don't want the lightning bolt to show up if it's not producing power. I only want the lightning bolt to show up when it's producing power. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to compare with 0. Our total and 0. If the total is 0, if the a plus b plus c, 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals, that's guaranteed to cause some confusion. Let's make it a, b, and c. Okay. If a plus b plus c is equal to 0, that's when we want to do something special. Otherwise, we actually just want it to wait. But if it's equal, we want to do something different. And what's that different thing that we want to do? We want to make sure that total power is empty. And the way that we do that is with a copy instruction. So we're going to take the copy instruction, we're going to move it here, and we're going to leave this blank. If the value is blank, it's going to copy a blank to the target. So that's what we're going to do. Boom. Now it's going to blank out. And we still want it to wait. So we're going to take this and we're going to put this over here. Right? And the other part is that if we want it to be to line up again, when I moved it, when I dragged the box, this lock turned off. If I want it to be lined up, I can enable the lock again, and then it'll just it'll organize itself. So if the value is nothing, then I want to copy, or if the value is 0, then I want to copy nothing into, total. But here's the thing. Now, let's go ahead and do this. I have to wait for it to be nighttime again. But if it were nighttime, then we'd end up seeing that this would never update, right? This would always be, let's see here. How is this working? These should not be outputting 150 anymore. What did I do wrong? Now we get into debugging. What's happening is that they're always updating the total, but we never told it how to update before. So now it's just outputting the thing that it always output. So the other thing that we want is we want to do a different kind of copy. And by the way, I did C and V here, just like how now if I do this, we should see it update to empty. There it goes. Except for this one for some reason. Oh, it was just a little bit delayed. So now we can see that it's taking this bottom one each time, right? And that's the branching. The branch, this is one branch and this is the other branch. But in this case, now it's copying empty, right? But we actually want it to copy total. And now, if we go back out, we'll see that these update again, and boom. Now we have our thing being output, and in a little while, when it turns nighttime again, we'll see that these turn off, right? And that's all done because, again, we are doing a comparison. And if the total we have is equal to 0, then it's going to copy nothing. And if it is anything else, then it's going to output our symbol. It's going to say, okay, this total needs to be copied into our output, and from there, it will wait. Okay, that's our easy little behavior. Now, the interesting thing is this view current values piece actually shows us at what we're doing, right? And at the end of the day, this is what in programming we call a debugger. A debugger allows you to attach to a program that you've written, and behaviors are programs. It allows you to attach to a program that you're running and then see what it is that it's actually doing. As a professional person who does this like outside of video gaming, this is a very important tool because often you won't have programs that have 5 or 6 steps in it. Instead, you'll have a program that has like thousands of instructions inside of it, spread across a large number of things, right? Imagine if you had a whole bunch of behaviors running throughout everything, right? You have maybe behaviors on these buildings, and maybe you have this scout have a behavior, and this runner has a behavior, and so on. That's a lot of different instructions running all at the same time. So being able to take a look at what it is that it's doing is very helpful. And then the other half of that is, again, what I said at the beginning. You want to make sure that you have an idea of what you want your program to accomplish. And if you work on that, understanding what you want your program to accomplish, and understanding how to use the debugger that's built in, this view current values stuff, and this inspect running behavior stuff, if you manage to use that, then you can experiment and you can figure out what all of the different behaviors do. And it is intimidating, I will say that. I've been doing this for a very long time, and so it comes very naturally to me how all of this works. It is fine. When I was a wee youngin', it was not easy, but with practice, it got a lot easier. Okay, so what have we managed to accomplish? We have Oh, the assembler can't produce whatever the thing is I asked it to do. What was it? Was it the gun? The turret? I think I wanted it to produce... Oh, I wanted it to produce capacitors, right? That was the thing? I don't even remember what I wanted this one to build. It's okay. We'll just make it something. And then I'll figure out later what it was supposed to be. Let's have it make signs. I'm sure a sign will end up being useful at some point. Okay, so today, what we've managed to do in this episode is we started doing research and we figured out research. That's pretty exciting. We did a handful of different things with the behaviors, right? We introduced behavior scripts. We did some things about how to understand how those behaviors are working. We got our power thing set up, and we have a whole bunch of stuff that we can experiment with next time. Like, for example, weapons and labels and, the ability to run multiple scripts at a time. Actually, there is one other thing that I do want to build out in this to experiment with in the future, and it's a really good way to learn how multiple behavior controllers work. I want RGB lights. Give me fun smart home light bulbs, right? Let's do that. And we'll also build out, let's see here. Is there anything else in here that would help? Well, we don't have the components for shields right now, so we won't do that. I can't build the small advanced turret. Same with the melee thing. I think it's probably a good idea to have a bunch of miners. Just spare miners available, so we'll do that too. And, actually, I think there's one other... Whoops. Build? I think there's one other thing that would be useful. Our next tier of construction is using robotics assemblers. So let's do that. We'll also build robotics assemblers, and we'll have that ready for the next time. All right, so I'm going to leave here. Thank you so much for watching. And next time, hopefully, we'll have the... We'll flesh out our network, our construction. We'll unlock the next tier of technology, which ought to be fun. And last but not least, we're gonna do some exploring. Maybe we'll find some of those. We'll find some enemies that we can use the laser cannon on, whatever this is called, the small turret. We'll figure out how to use that. Oh, and we'll add some pretty lights to our base. All right, thanks so much for joining. Bye.